Record with Michael Landsberg, brought to you by the Keg Steakhouse and Bar.
Hi, folks. It is a pleasure, as always, to welcome you to Off the Record. I'm Michael Landsberg. Before we get to today's show, I'd like to give you some background on today's show and yesterday's show. Yesterday, we spoke with Vince McMahon. Today, Vince McMahon and the CEO of Titan Sports, the parent company for the World Wrestling Federation, Linda McMahon. Some background on those interviews, though. We had wanted to speak with Vince McMahon since the passing of Owen Hart, but it wasn't until he actually came to us and offered us the opportunity to tell his side of the story that we got the chance. We went down to Stamford, Connecticut with one mandate, asked him the questions that you want asked, and push him for those answers. And again, there was no stipulations put on this interview. There were no rules to it. It was, as you would assume, straight off the cuff and genuine. Today, we'll get the opportunity to meet Linda McMahon. Linda McMahon is the CEO of that corporation. Now, you may think that it's all Vince, but in a lot of ways, Linda McMahon, who only just recently developed a public persona on Raw, does have a tremendous amount of influence on this corporation. And again, there were no rules to this interview, just myself sitting with Linda and Vince McMahon talking about one of the most controversial organizations, and to many people, one of the most important organizations in North America right now, the World Wrestling Federation. Today, a North American exclusive once again, Vince and Linda McMahon on OTR. The World Wrestling Federation is known as, according to many people, Vince McMahon's company. Vince McMahon is the face that you see on this company. Vince McMahon is the one that you see in the ring. Vince McMahon, and sometimes Shane and Stephanie McMahon. The name that you seldom hear, and in fact, up until recently, never saw, was that of Linda McMahon. Well, Linda McMahon is Vince McMahon's wife, or maybe I should put that the other way, and she is the Chief Executive Officer of this company. Linda McMahon, Vince McMahon, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's our pleasure.
Linda, he is thought of by many as one of the shrewdest businessmen around. Very creative, has a real knack for delivering to the audience what they want. He's also had his morality questioned. People have questioned his values. People have questioned his responsibility. How do you see Vince?
Well, I certainly see him as a very, very shrewd businessman. I have been married to Vince for over 32 years, almost 33 now. I've known him for another 3 years beyond that. I was only 6 when we got married, though. But I have known Vince to be...
Vince, I wouldn't laugh at that, by the way. No. It doesn't reflect well on you. Okay. I'm sorry.
He's a wonderful husband. He's a great father. He has been someone that I have been proud to call my best friend. We've had a wonderful lifetime together. Always bumps in the road with any relationship. We had ours. There'll probably be more to come. But he's a man of integrity, a man of principle, someone I admire and respect very much, and I would say that even if he weren't sitting next to me.
So, Linda, CEO, we've seen her a little bit on Raw. We've also seen that Stone Cold Steve Austin is the CEO of the company, so obviously appearances are irrelevant.
Didn't last very long.
It didn't last very long. So the fact is that we don't know anything about her. What does that woman do for your company?
She runs the company, basically. I'm out there doing the creative and things of that nature. And Linda's, always been, she described herself as nuts and bolts, but it's far beyond that. In terms of, she's always been right there, sometimes behind me, sometimes in front of me, helping grow this company from when we just started a little promotion company. And prior to buying my dad's company and making it, into what it is today, she's always been right there.
How did the two of you meet, and has wrestling ever jeopardized your relationship, given the fact that many wrestlers don't remain married to the same woman for 32 plus years, almost 33 as you put it? How'd you meet?
We met, you can tell that story because, again, no one's going to believe, first of all, what you said about me, okay? No one's going to believe this story either, so.
It had to be an ordained marriage. We actually met in church. I
know what you were doing there, Vince. What were you doing in the church?
I was there because
he was scouting.
That's true.
He was scouting.
my mom had said, you have to come meet this beautiful blue-eyed girl. She sings in the choir, and she's pretty, and you're really going to like her. And that was the motivation for me to go to church.
First time I've ever heard that.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you. The fact is, we actually did really meet in church, and. Let's see, I think I was 13 years old, and Vince was
16.
Dare I say that you were older? Yes, he was 16.
So you're there running the company now. Obviously, you're not worried about the storylines. How do you get word that Stephanie is actually going to start to assume a storyline, and did that ever bother you?
Well, it actually started with Shane.
I should
And-
point out that Stephanie is your daughter and Shane is your son.
Absolutely, and I actually don't know the storylines in advance. They keep them from me. I don't know what's going to happen until I watch the show that night.
Is that because they want to get them to air and they know that you'll say, and as
No.
Vince said, you run this company?
No, it's really because they really like to have an honest reaction from me. It's like, you know, since I'm not part of the storyline and not part of the creative aspect of it, even though I'm more insider than the viewing audience most of the time, my reaction really is, I think, pretty typical. So it's, how do I react? How do I react as a mother? How do I react as a woman? You know, etc.
How do you react as a mother, and how do you react as a father? That had to be, I would hope, a very difficult decision as to whether or not to put your kids on, make them part of the storyline, and really unveil them to the public.
It wasn't difficult for me. Shane and Stephanie are natural performers.
It's not so much a question of whether they're good at it, though. It's a question of, in the case of Stephanie, I mean, you talk about all the time, pushing the envelope, take it as far as you can.
Right.
For instance, does Stephanie play by the same rules as Deborah?
Could. Her personality could develop. I mean, she is not built like Deborah, you know. But, you know, I mean, but Stephanie can go places maybe Deborah can't. I mean, they're you know, so everyone has their role, you know.
I understand, but you know, with Deborah and with all the other women that you've had,
right.
There's always been more than anything about sex. Would you take your daughter into the same areas?
I don't know why not.
I'm not part of the creative team. I might have to look at that one first.
Well, certainly Shane is, and you know, and again, as a father, I mean, it's one thing to look at, you know, at your daughter as a father. It's another to look at your daughter as part of a, you know, a larger group of talents. You know, I mean, and again, you know, I think I err on the conservative side as a dad. As a television producer, you know, what's the ensemble and what can we do for the public?
Shane's training as a wrestler right now, and obviously is developing his own style as a wrestler. Let me ask Mom this, because Dad's a hard ass, and he'd throw Shane out there and say, just get out there. But he's going up ladders, and he's doing stuff that veteran wrestlers train many, many years to do. You watch him as a mother. Are you concerned for his health?
Sure, just as I'm concerned with any of our superstars when they're in the ring, and the moves that they're performing, you know, are, you know, split-second timing and incredible
But you're not worried about
acrobatics.
those guys the
Yes,
way you
I
are
am.
about your son.
Oh, it clearly is a different level when it's your son or your husband or your daughter doing it. But you know that there's always a risk, and you assume the risk, you know, when you step into the ring. But when Shane was on top of those ladders, that was really, I actually stood up in the middle of the floor and kind of said, I'll be glad when he's down.
I have to ask you this question. The two of you are lying in bed at night, and between you,
That's a nice thought.
and between you is the converter. At that point, who's the greater power?
Between us is the what?
The converter, this thing.
Oh, the remote control?
Right, yeah. So we call them converters, I'm sorry. Who's the greater power at that point?
I never, ever have the remote control, ever. Because if it's ever in my hand, it's like, could switch, just could we see the next thing? And it's like, I'm not even there yet, but it's definitely dominant control with the remote control.
When Off the Record returns, more with Vince and Linda, and we'll talk about the lawsuit with Sable.
Off the Record with Michael Landsberg is brought to you by the Keg Steakhouse and Bar. For great steaks, good friends, see you tonight.
As you heard, 32 years ago, these two great kids met. They formed a corporation somewhere along the line, went bankrupt once. You purchased the company from your dad. The company has had ups and downs, and now the WWF is clearly flying. But as always, you have many issues on the table, many hard issues. One of them came from Sable. Probably at one time your #2 performer, certainly in terms of video sales. Sable sued you, the WWF, for $110 million, alleging, amongst other things, she felt degraded. Where does that lawsuit stand?
That lawsuit is in the process, I think, of settling very quickly. In fact, by the time this airs, it may very well be settled.
How do you address her allegation that she was degraded by you?
Well, let me just say that it is a policy and a practice that no one is degraded by being associated with the World Wrestling Federation.
But that's a very corporate answer. That's like saying, well, we don't allow that.
Well, no, I mean, okay, we don't allow that.
But she talked about some of the things that you called upon her to do. And she felt as though, and I'm not saying that she's right or wrong,
right,
but this is what she has gone public with, that you encouraged her and asked her to do things that were against her will, that she felt sexually degraded. And she also said that she was threatened by other wrestlers.
Did she say that she actually performed those things that I asked her to do that were sexually degrading? I don't think she said that. I think the quote was pretty much close to what you said, that I asked her to do certain things. But I don't think she said that she did them.
Did you ask her to do those things?
I don't think I asked her to do anything that was degrading at all.
Isn't this a classic example of no individual in your company ever being nearly as big as the company, that you can get rid of anybody, right? If need be. I'm not saying you got rid of Sable. She probably did that on her own. But we see time and time again examples that nobody is indispensable for the WWF.
Well, you know, I would say that's accurate. I don't know that it's not accurate in other forms of entertainment as well. I don't think any one individual, Vince McMahon is certainly not bigger than what we do. No one is bigger than the larger sum of, of the parts. I think that in the entertainment business many times, however, individual performers can be confused, and sometimes their ego gets the best of them.
You have, I think, an illness that wrestlers can suffer, and I'm wondering how you avoid it or whether you even care to avoid it. But the fact is that you hype these wrestlers big, right? You say how incredible they are. They're built up as superstars and, in fact, superheroes and supermen and superwomen, and they start to believe it. And they start to believe it to the point where they're uncontrollable?
I think that's when we fail. And more often than not, that does not happen. It happens on occasion. But I think...
Bret Hart?
I think that, oh, no question about Bret.
Sonny?
Sonny, I'll have to go there as well, probably, yeah.
Sable?
Again, part of this settlement thing is I'm not supposed to speak ill of Rena Marrow, so I won't. But part of our responsibilities as producers is to advise performers and try and keep their feet on the ground. I mean, it's also good business, by the way, to do that. Once you've invested and built a certain attraction, you would like for that attraction to have some degree of longevity. So you do everything you can to help them keep their feet on the ground.
Linda, you talked about caring about the wrestlers. I mean, you admitted that you worry more about Shane than some of the others, but you talked about caring for their health. How about their mental health, and how about what happens to them when they lose total perspective over their position in a company and in society?
Well, in the company and society, it's kind of a big leap. But we have a very effective talent relations and administration department. Jim Ross, who's our senior vice president of talent administration, is very close in contact with our talent. I think what we really try to do is to address those situations before they ever occur. Celebrity is a heady experience. There's absolutely no question about that, and you can get a little swelled head dealing with that. To walk out in front of 18,000 people and have them screaming for you or against you, whichever response you're supposed to get, is really a very heady experience, and you have to learn how to cope with that, and I think by and large our talent do.
Sometimes they don't cope with it. Maybe that's one of the reasons why you guys chose to put your most valuable talent right out there in front, which is the rest of your family, because you know that they're not going to the other guy.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah, they won't be going to the other guy.
They have a vested interest here,
And I'll turn them across my knee.
There's no angle here, Vince?
No.
I'm seeing this thing happening.
Not yet, but, we never can tell.
More of this worldwide exclusive interview with Vince and Linda McMahon when OTR returns. Back with Linda McMahon and Vince McMahon from the World Wrestling Federation. Vince, you talk all the time. You brag all the time. We're not wrestlers anymore. So,
Wrestlers.
You're not wrestlers.
Right. Ted Turner has his wrestling company.
Right.
We're entertainers.
So
and extraordinary athletes.
So your
now,
name...
I'm not talking about me personally, but I'm talking about the roster.
So the name's not appropriate anymore?
In a lot of respects, it's archaic. You know, I mean, you know, a lot of times when I'm sitting with the creative team and, you know, we're coming up with concepts and things of that nature, we say, boy, you know, wouldn't it be nice if we can get that word wrestling out of the WWF? I mean, I think the WWF is a brand. It's an attitude. It is a form of entertainment. And can be applied to the music industry, can be applied to the film industry, et cetera, et cetera. When you see that logo, it says something. It says entertainment, but not necessarily wrestling.
Linda?
I agree. The same thing. It's with the brand. I mean, we've looked at that logo. The WWF logo has been out there for many, many, many years, and you just don't throw away a brand. We more frequently say WWF than World Wrestling Federation, but clearly the brand, it's recognizable instantly. You know what you're getting when you come to see it, and
so
it's
would you
wonderful.
change it to be more appropriate to sum up what you do?
I wouldn't change the logo.
Well, I not so much the logo, no, because it's very attitudinal. It can, you know, mean anything.
Oh, you will change the logo eventually, right? I mean,
well, sure, you got to keep it with the times.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Got to keep with the times.
Yeah, right. But generally, it's a, you know, 2 W's and an F kind of a thing. You can read it any way you want, though, by the way, as long as you read it. But I don't know. I think that, you know, we have the license to go in any direction we want to go, and less physical, more in ring, more out of the ring.
Just one final question. The logo is going to change. Whose call is it between the two of you?
His.
More creative probably would be mine, with input. On everything.
Are you chairman first and husband second? I'm thinking husband first with that answer. Vince, Linda.
That's a good question.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Michael. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate your candor and a
Enjoyed it.
pleasure to meet you, Linda, and give our audience an idea of just who you are.
Thank you for the opportunity.
As always, we want to know what you think of the show, and tons of great reaction from yesterday. Dear OTR, after hearing Vince's comment about Bret Hart, I can only hope that you will give the Hart family equal time to tell their story, and we can guarantee that. Hey, Landsberg, I hated wrestling until I saw Vince on your show. He is a marketing genius. And that represents much of the reaction we got. Vince McMahon loved and hated. Here's where you can reach us. Don't forget, we always respond to your comments. We want to know what you think when we return a sneak peek at an interview that will run in its entirety next week with Shane and Stephanie McMahon. Jim Van Horn is up next with Sports Desk and all of the news of the day. Meanwhile, our coverage of the Pan Am Games and the great baseball continues tomorrow. It's Canada versus Cuba. Meanwhile, the Blue Jays continuing their series against the Boston Red Sox. Game number 2 tonight with Joey Hamilton on the mound for the Toronto Blue Jays. And this has been a great week on OTR. On Thursday, Bill Berg of the Ottawa Senators. And Friday, here's a guy that we have wanted for a long time, Puff Daddy and Dee Brown of the Raptors. How cool is that? OTR on Friday. What you've been watching today is a worldwide exclusive interview with Vince and Linda McMahon. Now, in the Vince McMahon interview from yesterday, he made some disparaging comments about Bret Hart, still to many people a Canadian hero. We offer Bret Hart the opportunity to come on this show and give his side of the story. Yesterday's show with Vince McMahon was not an endorsement of his philosophies. We didn't agree or disagree with him. We asked him the questions, and he gave the answers, and we offer Bret Hart, who's been a friend of OTR over the years, to come on this show and answer the questions that he wants asked. Also, coming up next Tuesday, you will see for the first time ever Shane McMahon and Stephanie McMahon, the only 2 children of Vince and Linda McMahon, who appear weekly on Raw, of course. Each one has a storyline. We thought it was interesting that you would meet them, though, in a different light, not in character as you see them, but out of character, as the children of Vince and Linda McMahon, and also as important people within the organization of the World Wrestling Federation, each one with their own jobs at the WWF. So right now, it's Shane McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, for the first time ever being interviewed like this, talking about what it's like to have their lives unfold before the cameras. Are you comfortable, though, with the fact that you expose your lives, you expose who you are to the public? And
not really. I mean,
no?
No. I mean, who I am on camera is completely different than, you know, in our storyline. You know, doing the show right now, this is who we are. You know,
exactly.
So, but I'm not. It's a totally different deal. You know, when I'm out there in front of 20,000 people, you know, on Monday nights, and, you know, I have to get that sour face. I mean, I got that anger flowing, and, you know, I'm the boss's son who has the silver spoon, who is, you know, dominating and commanding attention and demanding that people, you know, follow my lead and all that stuff, then, you know, it's a totally different deal.
I got news for you, Shane. Your dad prides himself on the fact that he creates story angles and storylines based on real life. So maybe this is the way he sees you.
Well, certainly, I think some families, you know, are, yes, Vince does like, you know, real storylines. But I think that it is the portrayal of storylines. I mean, certainly there are families that argue and fight and, you know, sibling rivalry where the sister always wins, and you know that.
Not our family.
But I think that that's what, you know, my dad refers to when he says portrayal of real life storylines.
And you're taking it. I mean, on that same note, you're taking it. I am the boss's son, the boss's daughter. You know, and it's everyone knows about the boss's kid. You might have someone at TSN, you know, who is, you know, the son of someone higher up, and you treat that person a little bit differently than you would, you know, a production assistant or things like that. You know, so I mean, it's just kind of the nature of the deal.
Off the Record with Michael Landsberg is brought to you by the Keg Steakhouse and Bar. For great steaks, good friends, see you tonight.